This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow. This episode is brought to you by Rule 1 Proteins. If you're looking to get back in the gym or looking to re-up your supplement game, go check out Rule 1 Proteins. They get the best supplements in the market, the best protein powder, the best vitamins, you name it, they got it. Go check them out at www.rule1proteins.com. You guys know the drill. My name is Truck. I'm joined as always by Kulz and Shane O'Mac, and today we have a special guest for you. We have superfan, Bengals superfan at Just Eric. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good, brother. Doing good, man. It's appreciate you all accommodating the time, and I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good. Appreciate you having me on.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. So this is a long time coming. We connected a while back, kind of when Truck and I first started getting into the podcasting game, and we just found ourselves in Bengals Twitter. Just Eric's a huge presence in Bengals Twitter, and you were actually trying to get into a dynasty fantasy football league started, and I just kind of slid in the DMs and got Truck and I a team, and we that's where we kind of started our online friendship, I guess, if you will. But we've been rolling out, kind of being on during the off season, a fan or someone who's tied into the fan base networks, and kind of just talking off season storylines. So no one better for the Bengals than Eric. So here we are.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on, dude. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I just want to get started with like a quick background, for our listeners of, where are you from? How did you where did you find your passion for the Bengals? Just kind of a background on you and how the love for the Bengals came about.
Yeah, man. Born and raised in Cincy. Man, I was born into it. So that's kind of, I hate to sound pretty corny or cliche, but that's kind of how I really fell in love with the Bengals, and just watching them as a kid, not quite knowing what was going on, right? As a kid, when you're little, you don't really know what the heck is going on the football field. But as you grow with the team, you grow with the sport, you start to learn more. Had a couple opportunities to meet some players back in the day, Chad Johnson, TJ Hushmanzada. And man, dude, I played ball growing up, and that love for football and being from the city, and being able to eventually go off to college. And the one thing that really kept me connected to home, even though I was 8 hours away from home, was the team. You know what I mean? Being able to watch them on Sundays after getting done doing the film and workout sessions, just connect to me, man. So it's kind of always been near and dear to the heart. You know what I mean? And I never, and this is kind of today, the day and age we live in now, with like a bunch of different creators and everybody doing incredible work. I never thought I would be like this entrenched in Bengals, Twitter, but here I am, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So you played ball at Miami, Ohio, is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your football career. I'm interested.
Yeah, man. So, played ball in Cincinnati. I ended up going to a junior college out west. And then out of junior college, I actually ended up at Miami University, where I played, I played 2 years there. I appeared in 2 to 3 games. I was a special teams guy, but I was also an underclassman when I got there. I spent 1 year at JUCO. And then actually, crazy thing is, when you when you come from, I'm a journeyman. When you go to JUCO, right, and you actually take these credits, your clock runs as soon as you do like a full semester, right? So even if you're not like on the team or playing on the football team, once you fully enroll in school and you go through like a semester or a full year, your football clock is running, even if you're not playing. So that actually happened to me where I actually was in for a year. I wasn't playing. And the next year I got in there, but they're like, oh yeah, your eligibility though, you only got 3 years left. So when I got to Miami, I got a chance to play with some really cool cats. One guy specifically played for the Eagles, Brandon Brooks, incredible dude, man. Mom's incredible, family's incredible. And this is the first human being I've ever met that was like 6'5", 360, but had a six-pack. Like they don't make humans like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's just not normal. And I was there, man. I had a great time. And the coach who actually recruited me there to Miami, he called me Smoothie. He's like, hey, Smoothie, I'm not leaving here until we beat Cincinnati. Well, we played Cincinnati that year and we got killed. But then he left the next year. So I actually ended up transferring to a Division II school, man, partly because my eligibility, my clock was running out. So I actually ended up getting like a year of eligibility back. So I finished out playing a Division II school in Northeast Ohio, man. So kind of been all over the place, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, man, I always thought that I'd play professional ball until I got to be a senior in college. And then I was like, you know what? I'm probably not going to play ball at the next level. I could just tell.
Or until you met the guy, Brandon Brooks, that was 6'5", 360 with a six-pack. Then you're like,
you know what I mean?
That's NFL football right there.
That would have been the clue for me.
That's like, one thing, right, you know what I mean?
We're different. Me and you, we're different. That's funny.
So we got to ask, as a Cincinnati born and raised, what's the deal with Skyline? Yeah, I'm sure you get this question, but I'm a Chicago guy, so is Truck.
Okay.
Shane O'Mac, he's down in Wichita, Kansas. What's the deal with Skyline? Is it as good as advertised? I know Joe Burrow's not a big fan. What's the deal?
First and foremost, man, shout out to Chicago, right? I spent 2 years in Chicago. Love the food there. One of my favorite foods is Italian beef. Now I know I got the Portillo's version, but still love it. And one of my favorite places to go. Now, when we talk about Skyline too, man, it's like an acquired taste, right? Like when you like first start drinking beer and you're drinking like Keystone Light in college or Bud Light, right? And then like your friends like, have you ever had an IPA? Like, well, I don't know if I like IPAs, but it's an acquired taste. And I think Skyline is incredible, but I cannot eat Skyline for multiple days in a row. It's like when I go home, because I don't live in Cincinnati anymore. But when I get home, I have Skyline like the first day. It's like the first thing I do every time I get home. But after that, I'm like, okay, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, when I think of Cincinnati, I think of Skyline. I'm a foodie, so I like to get I like to understand the local culture and like what the Portillos of each city is. So
man.
So I travel a lot with work. I'm a truck driver and I'm all over the place. And I drove through Cincinnati and I got to try Skyline chili. And from experience, Skyline chili's trash. Okay. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. Skyline chili is garbage. I had the little hot dogs, the little chili dogs.
Yeah.
Those you can't even call those hot dogs. I don't know what those are. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It was. And maybe that's me. A foodie coming from Chicago, and we eat hot dogs all the time. We got Vienna beef hot dogs are phenomenal over here. So maybe I'm just privileged in that matter, but man, Skyline chili. I will say though,
Truck's a diva. Truck's a total diva. I was with him when this happened, and I actually kind of liked it. Like
we recorded an episode in a Skyline chili.
Yeah, one of our first ever episodes.
We actually hit you.
Yeah. I had hit you up and to see if you were in town.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we had to stop because there was too many people clanking plates and
it was ridiculous,
busting tables, and the audio was horrendous. So that episode will probably not see the light of day. But
it will eventually.
Someday
once we get like this was just a ridiculous journey of how we got here. We've improved a lot over the past, gosh, what's it been now? Like not even a full year, I think. End of June. So I mean, our first episode we did in Philly, and we had quite a few beverages, and by the end of it, I'm sure we were just like talking about whatever. So we're gonna definitely release that someday. But then the second one ever recorded was in Cincy, and
wow.
it was wild. Thinking back about that, so I was just about to move to Austin, and had an opportunity to start a sports podcast. Fantasy football for a brand sports ethos, and Truck and I've always talked about it, and I was about to move to Austin, so he was like, dude, I'm hitting the road to Philly, why don't you come with and we'll just figure this thing out. So we literally were taking long haul trucking routes to Philly. We did one down to Cincy, one to Charlotte, and just like figured out how to do a podcast.
Wow, man, that's incredible.
So kind of a ridiculous origin story, to be honest, but Cincy is definitely, a city that has a football team, which we're going to get into now, that is going to be relevant for, the next 5 to 7 to 10 years. We'll see what the, Burrow Chase era has to offer the city. I think really big things. I went to LSU, so maybe a little bit of bias there, but I mean, you saw what the team was, and then you saw him in year 2, his first full season, not being injured, take the team, to the Super Bowl. So let's get into some of the offseason storylines. That's why you're here. We want to hear about everything from, who's going to replace wide receiver 3 all the way down to free agency. What are we, what is our strategy there? But I think starting on the offensive side of the ball is probably the best way to do it, given this is a fantasy football show. And we want to talk about Boyd and free agency and kind of what the wide receiver room is going to look like heading into next year.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So the Bengals they franchise tag T. Higgins, fully expect him to be back and play this year. Don't expect him to get a long-term deal done, even though I know a lot of people are hoping for it. I think the two sides are very far apart on that specifically. But when you look at the wide receiver room, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, those are the big two. And then you talk about who's going to come in and fill that number 3. I think that's an interesting conversation because I think first of all, I think they drafted Charlie Jones out of Purdue to be the guy, to take that slot responsibility, to really come in and kind of be a replacement for Tyler Boyd when he goes off to his next team. But I think in that, I think Charlie Jones could be that guy. But then in camp and as the season came along, Andre Yoshivas, kid from Princeton, Division I school, but technically a small school in a lot of people's eyes and my eyes as well too. He had a really good year for a rookie, for a 6th-round pick, where people probably don't even expect anything, right? I saw something on Twitter, not to troll Browns fans while we're here, but Jerry Jeudy was traded today, right? And he had 2 touchdowns this year, and Andre Yoshivas had 4. You know what I mean? The rookie season, So not much to write home about. But when you think about Yoshivas and what he did this previous season, and then you read the articles from Bengals media on the beat saying, hey, Joe Burrow has a really good relationship with Yoshivas. He trusts Yoshivas. It leads me to believe I think Charlie Jones will have a chance to kind of earn that spot back. But I do believe Yoshivas, he has a really strong chance to be receiver 3 this coming season. And he's probably going to get the nod out the gate. I think Chuck they call him Chuck Sizzle. He'll still have opportunities. But if I was I am a betting man. And if I was to place a bet, I'd probably bet that Andre Yoshivas has more production than Charlie Jones this coming season.
So where do you think Chucky Sizzle's role will fit in? Is he going to be in like 5, split wide, 4 or 5 wide receiver sets. How are they going to add him in there? I know he came out relatively highly touted. I mean, he was a good prospect coming out of, in the draft, and he is talented. I don't think he did anything, as you're saying, echoing what you're saying. He didn't do anything to like minimize his playing time. It's that I'm going to screw up his last name. Iosivas.
Yep.
Iosivas. He balled out, and he looks great. He looks the part, that was one of the spats that we had on Twitter. I was giving you shit early on. I was like, this guy out of Princeton's not going to be good, Eric. Like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
And and I was kind of just trolling you, having some fun.
Yeah.
Never heard of the guy out of Princeton. I just was giving you shit, but he's balled out for sure.
He's done good, man. I think when you look at Charlie Jones, Chuck Sizzle, I guess so. They got so many nicknames nowadays for these players, man.
I love that one. I love that.
It's a hell of a nickname, right? Like Chuck Sizzle. How can I not say it? You know what I mean? So
I might draft him in the last round of the fantasy leagues just because of that. Yo, I got Chuck Sizzle, dude. Chuck Sizzle. Let's go.
It's incredible value, man. I think, I truly believe. I know I'm kind of talking about Iosivas, and I think the kid had an incredible year, and I think he's like next up, right? Yeah. When you talk about the respect and the trust he's earned from the team, I think he's next up. Charlie did have there was one moment last year where Charlie's running might have been a deep post, and he's like wide open, or a skinny post, right? He's running a skinny post, and he's wide open, and he actually gives up on the route. So it's supposed to be a touchdown. He doesn't even catch it because he basically gives up on the route and doesn't think the ball is coming to him. So I think he has some trust and respect to earn. But I do believe if I was just looking at, A player versus B without knowing anything between the two of them, and just looking at the history of Charlie Jones, I'd like to think that Charlie will emerge and take it back from Andre Iosivas, but I just it's hard to tell because I don't know if he'll stay healthy. He had some injuries last year. And I think early on the Bengals will probably use Chuck as a rotational piece. I'm not sure the Bengals are going to come out and say, hey, right away, Iosivas, take receiver 3 and you get all the target share. I think they may split it, and I think they'll let the best guy hash it out. The one thing about Iosivas is he's not going to play strictly in the slot. He's going to play some outside too, right? He's going to play kind of maybe behind that T. Higgins role. Yeah. And I think Jamar Chase will maybe do a little bit more moving inside the slot. He had an interview where he said, hey, I want to play inside the slot more this year. And they got Steve Radishevich from the Vikings, who is going to be the Bengals passing game coordinator. So not to keep rambling, but I expect them to try to utilize Jamar Chase like the Vikings utilize Justin Jefferson.
JJ.
Yeah. I expect it to be eerily similar in that light, lining them up inside, creating easy mismatches for them, giving them advantages against the defense, and trying to take away those opportunities for people to just cloud him or double him. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'm expecting. Sorry for rambling on that.
No, you're good. What about the tight end position now? The other pass catchers, I'm to my understanding, they're all free agents right now, right? You guys, so what's the plan there? What do you think they do for tight end?
Man, they got 0 people in the room right now, man. The Bengals have.
We just saw all those tight ends get signed too, right?
Yeah.
Hunter Henry gets signed to the Patriots. Dalton Schultz. They're following like dominoes. So, what do the Bengals do?
Man, we've had a lot of conversations about this. The Bengals have not prioritized the tight end position. So, my opinion, they need to go get a guy. Go get a guy. Stop, this, hot potato. switching the tight end position, not valuing it, getting a guy on a 1-year deal and hoping he can contribute. This year, the year prior, it was Hayden Hurst, and Hayden did a good job, honestly. But the Bengals let him walk, and they said, "Hey, we'll just find someone else." And then they bring in Irv Smith, and no disrespect to Irv, man, he made it way further than I have in my career, but the guy can't catch a cold. You know what I mean? I mean, he just can't catch, man. And when the game's on the line, he tends to kind of drop the ball, or sometimes he'll fumble in bad spots. And at the end of the day, he actually got phased out by Tanner Hudson. So I expect the Bengals to bring back Tanner Hudson. I expect him to bring back Drew Sample, although I think Drew Sample may test the free agency market to see if he does have a market. I think he will this year because he did show some value as a pass blocking or a blocking tight end. And I think they'll bring back Wilcox for sure. So I think that's two you can probably guarantee the Bengals will bring back Mitchell Wilcox and Tanner Hudson because they probably won't have much of a market. And then hopefully, for that third guy, I haven't been major on the Noah Fant train, but a lot of people are on that train. And just kind of looking back and really going back through my notes, I did that this weekend. I think Noah Fant could do very well in the Bengals system. I think he could do well. I think he could solidify that spot if they give him a 3-year deal. And then I also like a guy like a Mike Gesicki, right? So I'm not sure what the Bengals will do there or if they will finally stop kicking the can down the road at the position. But I do think it is a position where if you get the right guy, right, you still have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, you'll find your number 3. You have an opportunity to create a mismatch there at the tight end spot because of the attention on what those receivers will draw. So I'm hoping they bring in a free agent and then draft a guy. Does Brock Bowers fall? I highly doubt it.
Maybe Sanders from Texas.
Yeah, Jatavion Sanders, he could be a fit. I like Jared Wiley out of TCU. A lot of people like Benson Knott. I think there's a couple. I think this class is a little bit. It's not like last year's class with the tight end because last year we had a load of tight ends, but there is some talent here, and you can get a guy that can be a backup or a number 2 and ease into the number 1 spot.
Nice.
So speaking of offense, it's not fantasy related, but offensive line seemed to be a bit of a concern for them last year. You got Jonah Williams as a free agent. I did see today that Cody Ford got re-signed, so I don't know if you felt that was a must re-sign on the offensive line, and if they need to go there in free agency next week in addition.
The Cody Ford signing was really good signing, I think. Not because you're expecting him to play, but because it's like bolstering the room, adding depth. If someone goes down, he's a guard, tackle, so he can play the right tackle or guard spot. So there you kind of take care of 2 with 1. And then going into the draft and free agency, you don't have to necessarily worry about that. You still want to add one more guy to the room, but it makes life a little bit easier, right? So you're not scratching and clawing to find more depth. But I think it was a good signing, man. Nothing that's going to move the needle either, which way or the other. But if a guy does go down, which we've seen, year after year, these guys go down in critical spots. So you need a backup to step up and play some quality snaps.
What's the deal with Mixon? Is he going to be back? Is he? Let's talk. Let's just.
Dude,
this is one thing I'm very curious about because he had a decent year last year, and I'm very curious to what your thoughts on Mixon.
Yeah, man. I like Mixon, dude. I think he's a great player. I think he's done very well for us. I would like to see him. I would like to see Mixon ride off into the sunset the right way. Like how Larry Fitzgerald, they probably held on too long, but he got to retire a Cardinal. AJ Green didn't get to ride off into the sunset. But you have these guys who come into your franchise who are really pivotal and key contributors when things aren't going well. That's like Joe Mixon. So like aside from the on the field play, I think Joe Mixon's like incredible, right? Like I think he's incredible. Let's let him retire a Bengal and never go play somewhere else. But when we talk about on the field and production, a lot of people point to offensive line for why he's maybe not like, one of the top backs in the league, or maybe they're saying like why he can't break tackles and things like that. But in reality, to me, I think running back's a young man's game, right? So I think as time goes on, 1 + 1 is 2. So what I'm saying is not rocket science. Running back is the most brutal position in the NFL. He's going to slow down eventually, right? He had a good year. I think he had like 1,300 plus all-purpose yards this year. But I think there's context to that, right? I think you look at the last game. I think you look at some other games and say, well, he did well in those games, but what about the games when it was tight and you needed to, get such and such? Did he deliver? And a lot of times he does, right? So I'm not taking that away from him. I'm not saying that last game doesn't count. But what the Bengals are missing in running back is explosiveness. And, quite frankly, he's never been a back that would take it 80 out the gate, as they say. But they need that. They do, because what teams are like, Mixon saw the most light boxes in the NFL last year, right? And what I'm saying is like everybody's running like too high shell, or they're not stacking the box against the Bengals. So the Bengals have to be able to run the rock. And while I think offensive line is a key contributor to that, they need the guy, like the rule for all skill guys, receivers and running backs, not so much tight ends, because that's like big skill. Make the first guy miss, right? Like I think now, like when Mixon first got in the league, oh my gosh, like Mixon's making the first guy miss all the time. Like, are you stiff arming him? Mixon has a little bit of a different style. As big as he is, you think he'd be running people over, but he's not. He's like, he kind of ran like Le'Veon Bell in the beginning of his career. But I just think now he's slowed down a little bit, and the Bengals, they can keep Mixon. I don't think they need to cut him or anything like that, but they need to add talent to the room and be okay with if that talent outplays Mixon. But I think, last year when Chase Brown got snaps, it almost seemed like it lit a fire under Mixon, and he ran harder. So, like, for me, that's he doesn't fumble, but I think competition breeds success. So, add to the room, bring a dog in.
So what's your perfect scenario for the Bengals in the running back room?
My perfect scenario is probably Mixon. Well, my perfect scenario would be Saquon Barkley. Okay. That's not going to happen.
They got the
That's not going to happen, but that would be my perfect scenario. Hey, cut Mixon. Thank you for your services. Let's get Saquon in here and let him tote the rock. But I think realistically, perfect scenario for me is Joe Mixon, Chase Brown, and maybe one of these running backs that in a year where there's probably not going to be a running back taken definitely the second to third round. You might be able to get a guy that is really good in the third to fourth that really, might be able to be a key contributor. Yeah. And that maybe was that a Trey Benson? Is that a Jalen Wright? I just think, one of those guys, and the kid from Tennessee, I don't know if it's Jonathan Brooks, I believe is his name.
Texas. Jalen Wright's from Tennessee. Yeah. So I agree with you in that, like this running back class, it's not, the receivers are getting all the hype, right? Like, so it's going to be the first 2 rounds are going to be extremely front loaded with wide receivers, causing the running backs to fall further in the draft. And it's going to be completely situational for me. Like there's some guys here, Dylan Johnson from Washington, like he showed that explosiveness that you're talking about is missing in their playoff run late in the year. Bucky Irving is obviously speed is his thing, right? But this is a deeper running back class that is going to all depend on situation. Are we in an offense that has Joe Burrow running the show and Jamar Chase and T Higgins opening up the field to run the ball, so like that is a situation that one of these guys can step into and succeed. So I think you're right in that there's going to be a star coming out of these late rounds based on the running back position not being as, highly regarded right now, and the wide receivers kind of getting all the shine. So there's going to be talent there in those later rounds for sure.
100%, dude.
So I think we kind of covered the offense. Yeah. I would like to say, like, I think the Bengals are going to have a big bounce back here. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are too good. Like, Burrow's a winner. He has all of the intangibles. He is the guy that you want at quarterback. The Bengals are going to come back after a down year where they, didn't exceed expectations. And I just think they're going to light the league on fire this next year. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be, from a fantasy football standpoint, I would say Burrow is looked at negatively in that he doesn't have rushing upside and he's been injured. It's costed him a couple seasons, right? I think because of that, his value and where he's going to go in drafts is low, and I'm going to be looking at him for sure. So Jamar Chase, he's my 101. He's my number one wide receiver. I had him ahead of Jefferson last year, which wasn't necessarily industry consensus, but I just felt he's a better receiver. I watched those two at LSU on the same team, and he's the more talented wide receiver than Justin Jefferson. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I just think he's due for a bounce back year with Burrow. So that's my thoughts on kind of the Bengals fantasy outlook heading into next year.
Oh yeah, man.
So draft, what are the holes that we need to fill from the draft? Where do you see the Bengals in these first few rounds going from a positional need standpoint?
Man, this free agent, I vowed to not saying I haven't done any mock drafts on my own, but I vowed not to like put mock drafts on the TL timeline, right? Until free agency, because I truly feel like it's so tough for me to know where they're going to go in the draft, because I think they have a couple glaring needs right now, right? You lose Jonah Williams, which I don't think Jonah's a world beater, but Jonah is Jonah before we got Orlando Brown and Kappa and Karras, he was one of the best linemen we had. He was the best, and he's been consistent when he's played. So I think right tackle is a big void, and interior D-line are huge voids. And I think when you talk about the draft, no matter what they do in free agency, they will attack that spot in the draft, right? So I think if they sign a tackle in free agency, they'll still draft a tackle. Now, the level of tackle, obviously they sign a free agency is going to impact where they feel like they have to take a tackle. But I still think it's a position of need as they kind of fill out this roster. But interior D-line and tackle are the two biggest voids on the roster by far.
And tackle is very high top end in this draft. Like you're going to see a lot go in the first round. You've got some very top end talent there. In that range, you're looking at Mims from Georgia, which is just a physical freak. I mean, he reminds me of the guy you were describing in college. I mean, he's just a specimen. You've got the Oklahoma kid, Guyton. You've got Latham from Alabama, the Oregon State. You just got a lot of high-end talent there that's going to be available for teams. So it's a good spot to be in this year.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think it's like this is the year, like, to draft a tackle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the year. Like, the Bengals have not hit on offensive linemen as of late. I wouldn't even consider – I guess I consider Jonah a hit because he's played considerable snaps. But when you look at, like, Jackson Carman and Deontay Smith and Trey Hill and some of these guys they drafted, like, dude, they just didn't pan out at all. Like, at all. Like, Jackson Carman played a little bit in the playoff run and he showed flashes, but, you know, since that, even including that Super Bowl, he was a healthy scratch. Like, it's just like, this is the year where you have to hit, and you got a greater probability to hit because the talent's better and you're a little bit higher up the draft board.
So what are your thoughts? Obviously, the AFC North is a ridiculous. It's the best division in football in my mind. You have the Ravens, who are outstanding. Browns, like, that defense is a championship defense. I say the same thing about the Steelers too. Really, there was a little bit of holes with the Steelers, but how good TJ Watt is, Highsmith, Hayward, Mika Fitzpatrick, like they have all of those star potential to build a championship defense. What obviously in a conference it's that competitive, you have to bring the Bengals that we have seen. But what do you in a conference like that, in a division like that? What do you, it's just so difficult to project. You obviously have high hopes, but you're going against, 6 games out of your schedule are against top tier talent, all playoff level teams. What is that like going through a season? How grueling is that, on the players? Does that mean more depth? Kind of, what do you see with the Bengals and how they navigate through that AFC North?
So, man, first of all, it sucks. I mean, it sucks. It sucks, guys. It sucks, man. I wish we were in the NFC, or like, I wish we were like, it sucks. You know what I mean? But I will say, I think the Bengals have the best quarterback in the division. I really do. I don't think it's close. I think Lamar Jackson is great. But I think when you talk about when the game's on the line and you need a guy to throw a strike, like, I'm not picking anybody other than Joe Burrow, and not even from a biased perspective. But I think it's a two-pronged. I think it's two-sided, right? Because on one end, it sucks, and it's like, dude, first of all, these AFC North games are brutal. We hate each other. Browns have Thanos. The Steelers, I can't even think of the nemesis. I can't think of the guy. I don't know. But the TJ Watt, incredible. Like, we have 2 of the best pass rushers in the league in the AFC. Like, if we're doing a top 5 pass rusher list, TJ Watt and Myles Garrett are both in that list. You know what I mean? And we got to see them twice a year. So it's brutal, man. It's brutal. And considering that the Bengals have, where we struggle the most is in the trenches, that's kind of where we've kind of lost those battles, man. And I think, like, when you look at this year, most previously, Joe got hurt, but we went 1-5 in conference in the division. And but we always have a great out-of-conference record. Like, the Bengals will go, like, they'll play every other team, and they'll go like 7-1. And then in division, you're like, 3-3, 1-5. This year, I think, is a little bit of an exception, you know what I mean, because of the Joe Burrow injury. But depth is very important, man, because you're going to have a lot of injuries. It is going to be taxing. 9 times out of 10, second week of the season or first week of the season, it's an AFC North bout, probably, you know what I mean, with the Ravens or Browns or Steelers. And it's just brutal, man. But on the flip side, you talk about it, and that clip of Joe Burrow on the sideline the year they go to the Super Bowl, and he's like, man, we could win this division, we could win it all. And that's really what it is. Like, hey, this is best of the best, good on good, and you got to bring your A game. There's no really opportunity for you to slack, because you got to play the Ravens. You got to play the Steelers, even though they didn't have a quarterback. Like, somehow they find a way to win. You got to play the Browns, who some reason you can't seem to beat the Browns. Like, you know what I mean? So as of late, right, we used to own the Browns, but as of late, just seems like the Browns just always find a way to beat us. And it's just like, It's tough, man. The Bengals got to adapt. They really have to, like, I've kind of been talking about this, and I don't ramble on it too long, but they have to adapt their identity. And right now, we love Joe Burrow and the Bengals for dropping back and throwing it 45, 50 times a game. But the truth is the Bengals have to be able to run the football in the North, and they got to be able to, like, proverbial smack people in the mouth, like smash them off the ball. So I think that's the next evolution. And I think if they can get to that and still keep that element of like West Coast, not necessarily Shanahan, but the West Coast offense, they can really they can destroy teams. The division is where they struggle the most, though. My
main takeaway from this conversation is that the trenches. I mean, you just named the three other teams in the division. Those are three of the best teams in the trenches in the entire league, period. Those defensive lines, we didn't even talk about the Ravens. They just signed Matabuke, and then Clowney had an outstanding year. Those are the three of not only the best defenses in the league, but defensive line specifically. So that being the glaring hole for the Bengals, it's right. It's an identity thing. It's like, if we want to make the playoffs, if we want to be, an alpha in this division, we got to get tough, and we got to start there. I mean, it's football, right? You played your whole life. The game is won in the trenches. End of story.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Yeah, 100%, man.
So given that, do you want them to bring back DJ Reader, or would you rather see them kind of go younger and fresher there?
Man, I hope they bring back DJ, man, because I think DJ Reader is so important to this team. A leader, he's probably one of the best run defending. He's probably not the best, but he's the top 5 run defender in football at the zero tech or nose tackle, however you want to classify him. And then he does have, flashes where he can affect and push the pocket in the pass game. So DJ Reader to me is invaluable. The reason the invaluable portion is you turn on the TV, you watch a basketball game, and, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase are out at the LA Lakers game, but then you see Sam Hubbard and DJ Reader alongside of him, right? And then Joe Burrow's in an article, and he's saying, hey, I don't know if you guys saw it, but he's like, I think he sits down with Ben Baby of ESPN, and he's like, hey, we need the guys that we draft to come in to contribute. We need leadership, right? So, when you talk about leadership, that's invaluable, man. And I think that's something that teams and organizations take for granted because they think it will just happen because you did it last year. But if without DJ, man, you kind of got to reestablish that leadership on the defensive side.
So let's talk about just in terms of the division. What are your hopes for the Bengals? Let's see the offseason. You plug those holes that you talked about, and Browns, it'll be interesting to see what they do with how long Chubb's out and what they're going to do to kind of phase that time. I don't know if Jerome Ford, he had a great year last year, but I don't know if he's able to carry that load himself. So it'll be interesting to see what, first of all, how long Chubb is out for the first half of the year, and then what they do to kind of add that element to their game in their offense, because I don't think the Browns can afford to start slow this next year. And then, to me, Steelers need to figure out the quarterback situation, and the Ravens are going to be the Ravens. So now, today, Bengals look like, 1-2 in my mind heading into next season. Is that kind of a realistic opinion that from your eyes being,
I think it's real, man. I know I'm going to sound like a homer. You know what I mean? I do think it's a realistic opinion. I got to tell you guys, the Bengals fan base is incredible. Okay, it is incredible. I try my hardest to not be a homer and to not be afraid to embrace sharing different opinions, because you do see a lot of people pushing similar agendas and maybe not saying exactly what's going on. But specifically to this question, man, I think it's realistic. I think the Bengals I think they could win the division. And I think that's okay. When you think about it, right? Bengals got a 4th place schedule. That right there, you know what I mean? That's already for you, to me, that's giving you a jump. Yeah. They won 9 games, right? And Joe Burrow was out for what, like 8? Joe Burrow was out for, I don't know how many games he was out. He may have been out for 9 because he got hurt when? In
Week
like
11.
November.
Week 11.
I don't know.
Week 11.
Week 11.
Week 11. We were playing the Ravens. So I don't even know what our record was, honestly. But Jake Browning, he won at least 3 to 4 games.
Yeah, they were 4-3 without him.
Yeah, so I just think like the way that team competed without Burrow, you guys know the history of the Bengals, right? Like the Bengals haven't won a championship. They've been close, right? Close isn't good enough. I think they can win a division. I expect them to win the division. And I think if you're the Bengals, this might sound weird. This is the best thing that could have happened to you, right? As long as Burrow comes back healthy, this is the best thing that could have happened to you because everybody's patting you in the back, telling you're incredible. Everybody's asking for Joe Burrow's autograph. Everybody's saying Jamar Chase is the best thing since sliced bread. Zach Taylor, you're the GOAT. And this is just a little bit of humble pie and let the team know, let the organization know, let the front office know, hey, guys, nothing's guaranteed. You got to have some urgency. This is your window. So I do believe they can win the division, man, and I expect them to be honest.
Yeah, on my take on the Bengals in the division this year, you can't put it past them. They're capable, just as capable as any team to win the division out of those 4. And like Mike was saying, iron sharpens iron. Playing those teams every year, really improves them. But if the Bengals are able to figure out that offensive line and figure out the running game, I personally think they're going to be unstoppable. Really unstoppable. And I mean, the limelight for the division, it's like those other teams, Mike was referencing it earlier, but they have so many question marks on the other teams on the offensive side of the ball. And I feel like when you're comparing question marks offensively, their question marks are larger. Like, the Steelers, their quarterback situation, that's such a big question mark. The Browns, is Deshaun Watson really the guy? What are they going to do at running back while Chubb's coming back? And when Chubb comes back, is he going to be, a fraction of what he once was? And then the Ravens too. The Ravens don't have a running back right now. So, I mean, do they get Derrick Henry? That's a whole nother if that happens, then we have a whole nother conversation to have. But I do think the Bengals have a legit chance this year. And I'm rooting for you guys.
I'm praying the football guys don't send King Henry to Baltimore.
Oh my
you know what I mean? I mean, football guys, if you're listening out there, you know what I mean? We ain't, please.
Not to highlight another team, or this is our Bengals episode, but I was saying how King Henry to the Ravens in all black with that blacked out visor playing the Bengals, Bengals or the Steelers on Sunday or Monday Night Football. Like,
it would be nasty.
Yeah,
I'd love it though. I'd love it.
I know. I didn't want to put you boxing in a corner to say that you would love that, but like anyone that loves the game, are you kidding me? Like, that would look just how physical that division is and how he is just such a physical runner. For him to go out in the last years of his career just banging, I think would be really cool. So, man. Well, I think that's all I kind of had on my sheet. You guys have any other questions, or do you want to wrap up? I think this was extremely informative. You have your ear close to the ground. You know that team better than anyone. So, I really appreciate you coming on.
I got one more question. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What's going on with the Dynasty League? I got a notification today. You reopened the league. It's open for business. You reactivated it. What's going on? Because last year it didn't end well. We had people not pay. We had people not send lineups. I'm just curious. What's your plan? Because I need to know what's going on.
So this is the thing. I'm glad you asked that question. Okay. So first of all, I do want to say this. The people did get paid out, that won. I want to say that they did get paid.
Yeah.
We did have some people not pay. And I was a little loose. I did the draft with people not paying because I wanted to get it going. That's not the way you should do it. It was my first time doing a dynasty draft. I want to open it back up. Part of me is saying this, though, and I'm going to ask the chat. Okay. I don't know how many people are still alive in that chat, to be honest. I'm going to say, hey, are you still alive? And if you are, do you guys want to go ahead and do the rookie draft? That's what I'm on board to do. I'm ready to do that and push forward, but I need to collect payments early. And then we can keep the same rosters and do that. Or what I'll do is I'll say, hey, we'll cut down to 12. I'll just bring in 6 of my buddies. We'll keep the people who are ready to pay and are going to be engaged, and then redo it. And then that'll be the last time we do that. But in my opinion, man, I want to kind of run it from what we got right now. It'll be tough, I think, to fill those teams, but I also don't know. You know what I mean? This is my first run through with Dynasty.
Yeah.
Right. I usually do like a Yahoo league. We do like a $400 entry. Everybody pays. You know what I mean? So it's but the difference is, not to keep rambling, I use Twitter for some of the people, and I may not know everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the tough part with dynasty leagues. You know, they do say the average dynasty league only lasts 2 years, and it's one of those things where you got to know everybody and hold people accountable and make sure they're vested. When they start it, because that's the hardest part about dynasty. I'm going through it with the home league myself, where it's just tough. It's tough to keep together.
It's tough, dude. Now we could keep it together, and I got people who are locked in and ready to go. Let me ask you, would you do a restart or no?
I'm always down to do a restart. Just any startup draft. I love startup drafts, dynasty. I'd be down.
Now you guys had 2 people on one team though, right?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, Mike. Mike, are you down?
Mike?
No.
No? Mike, you out?
No, I'm in. I'm just fucking with you. I wanted to get your reaction.
No, fuck that.
I'm on the edge of my seat, man.
I need to get your reaction.
I almost broke this camera here, dude.
I am in, Eric. Eric, I am in if you are down to play Call of Duty sometime.
Oh, bro. I haven't played COD in a minute, man. I got my monitors down here. I
thought you had been playing. You were on Twitter.
I was, dude. Me and my boys are playing. You play Warzone?
A little bit, yeah.
Dude, I do a little bit of Team Deathmatch, a little bit of Warzone. I haven't been playing as much, man. I've been getting into Helldivers, but I am pretty good at COD though, man. Honestly.
Okay.
I'll
at least I'll DM your gamer tag, and we'll at least get on friend each other and see if we're ever playing at the same time.
We'll play.
All right.
We'll play. We'll lock it in. We'll play 100%.
Beautiful.
All right.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Eric, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate this, man. Thank you for taking the time and telling all the roadies out there about the Bengals and what to expect this season. I think it was great, and I really appreciate it. So,
yeah, we're going to be we'll link back up with you once season starts. Bengals storylines start coming out in season. I think, if you're ever open to coming back on, we love having the insight. We want to hear local voices. We want to hear people that are entrenched in the fan base, and you're the perfect representative of the Bengals in our eyes. So we really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me on, boys. Man, it's an honor and a pleasure. And I'll be looking forward to getting the next invite, because I'll definitely join back.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you everybody for clicking on the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Podcast is live on all platforms. Go check out Eric on Twitter at @JustEric_. Go follow him and follow us as well at Fantasy Roadshow. Other than that, everybody knows what to do.
Wait.
Oh,
of course.
It wouldn't be the end of the episode without Kulz jumping in. What do you want now?
I think it's at @JustEric__. There's 2 underscores.
2 underscores?
Oh, there's 2 underscores.
There's more than one Just Eric's?
2. Just
Yes,
Eric
dude.
__. I got you.
Oh, it is 2 underscores.
It's 2,
you're
man.
absolutely right.
Apologies
My
about
mistake.
confusion.
@JustEric__. Go give him a follow. Other than that, everybody knows what to do. Buckle up.